So I know you folks want to talk about dairy a little bit. So if people have questions for me, I'm more than willing to do that if you want to do that, or if you want me to talk a little bit about dairy and what we do here with dairy, I'm more than happy to do that.
Why don't you go ahead and start?
Okay.
And then we'll ask questions after.
Okay. Well, we have about 850 dairy farms in Vermont. You might recognize some of these cows here. Everyone knows these are Holsteins, right? You see the Holsteins?
Yep.
And these are these probably have more Holsteins than any other breed in the state of Vermont. And the Holstein cow is a cow that gives more milk than the other breeds, but does not produce as much butter, fat, and protein, and so forth. These cows here are from Franklin County. They're from Enosburg Falls, so they're not too far from you folks, the Gervais family. We were recently up there. So those are the Holsteins. And the dairy industry in Vermont is worth about $2 billion. There's been some studies over the years. So it's very important to our economy, especially our rural economy, like you folks in Franklin County, Addison County, Orleans County, all the counties, but particularly dairy. We're looking at some Jersey cows here, and this is recently we were up in Hardwick, and this calf is, as you can tell, is just barely been born, and it looks like mom and a friend are taking care of it. But this is from the Lagus Brothers Farm up in Hardwick. They have a rather large operation, one of the largest Jersey operations in the state of Vermont. And the Jersey cow gives a lot of cream, butter fat. So it's one of those that's good for making cheese and butter and etc. But they do not give as much milk in quantity as the Holstein breed. Kind of a neat breed. So I'd say that's probably the number two. You may recognize this one being the Brown Swiss. Brown Swiss is another durable breed. You may see them at Shelburne Farms if you're down there. They use it for their cheese making operation on site. A little bit bigger than Jersey, a little bit, well, probably about the same size as the Holstein, a little bigger. But look at those ears. Really pleasant. And then this is another one. This is an Ayrshire, and a lot of our cheesemakers like to use this breed for making specialty cheeses. The red and white version here, the Ayrshire. This one from Tunbridge. This is the Guernsey. This is your classic dairy breed. Look at those horns on the animal and the beautiful animal behind. But, again, the Guernsey's kind of reminds me in between a Jersey and an And then this one, this is the Milking Shorthorn, another dairy breed we have this is from Randolph Center, from Orange County at Green Acres, so it's kind of a cool breed. So those some of the Jersey breeds we have, and this one is we're in the midst of a contest here, and you might want to take your cameras out across Franklin County and send in pictures. We have a little contest. We're going to be giving away a big basket of cheese, specialty cheeses, and the only two requirements are that it has to be agriculture and it has to be foliage together. And we're calling it farm leafies. And these two animals, this is a rare breed. It's called the Randall Lineback. And it's a heritage breed. And a gentleman years and years ago down in Arlington, Vermont, developed this breed. And a heritage breed is a breed that's at risk of going extinct. But there's an effort in Vermont to bring the Randall Lineback back, and it's being placed in various herds around the state, hoping we can get enough numbers up to make sure it's preserved for a long time. But it's called the Randall Lineback. But look at that beautiful foliage in the background in the front, and the classic barns in the back, and those two beautiful animals right there. So if you want some questions from me, I'm more than happy to answer some questions.
So I'm going to actually my class to just introduce themselves to you and tell them why they're in our diversified class, because the majority of our students actually have a little bit of background on dairy, or they're interested in pursuing a career or something in dairy related. So
that would be great.
Okay.
Name's Dalton. I'm from Sheldon. I'm just interested in working with cows.
Great.
I'm Callum. I'm from Enosburg, and I want to continue my career path in the agricultural industry, so that's why I decided to take this class.
My name's Cole, and I like to work with genomics and dairy genetics.
Nice.
My name's Aaron. I'm from Berkshire. My dad used to farm, and I work on a farm too.
Hi, I'm Cedric. I'm from East Fairfield. I live on my parents' farm.
Okay, and I'm Miss Tebbetts, and I own and operate a dairy farm here in Sheldon and Enosburg.
Thank you.
Oh, great. We have some questions for you.
What do you think the general forecast on milk prices is going to be?
Well, right now we have some people working on, we have a group called the Vermont Milk Commission, and they had their first meeting a couple of weeks ago, and we were looking at milk pricing, and we're going to be meeting tomorrow in Williston. I'm going to be talking about more about what's happening with milk pricing. Right now, there doesn't seem to be any real movement on the pricing. There's a lot of uncertainty. And over time, milk prices sometimes go up, and then they come down again, and they go up, and they go down. Right now, it's been a time where the prices have gone to levels that are too low, and they have not recovered. There's been a little bit of movement that they've increased a little bit over the last month or so. But right now, I think there's a tremendous amount of concern that they just really aren't moving up again, and it's sort of in a lull right now, and no one seems to know quite where it's headed. One thing about dairy, it's really, it's an international market, so about 15% of all dairy now is exported outside the United States. So if that fluctuates, it has a tremendous impact on what the price farmers are paid in Vermont and New England and New York. The federal pricing system, it's a federal pricing system, and it's rather complicated depending on how much milk there is in the market, and there's several factors, whether it's fluid milk, stuff you drink in a bottle or get in the school, or whether it's in processing as well. So right now, no one seems to know where it's headed, and there's no real positive forecast that it's going to recover at the levels it needs to recover to make it more profitable for our dairy farmers.
So with that, how are you supporting the conventional farmers?
What we're doing with our conventional farmers is we're trying to limit their costs. So over the last legislative session, one thing we did working with Governor Scott and the legislature, we did not impose any more taxes on our dairy farmers or any more fees on our dairy farmers. So that's limiting, that's hopefully making it more affordable so they're not paying more out of pocket for that. And the other thing that we've got to do is we've got to find out if we can get our federal officials in Washington and with USDA to develop a new pricing system that would support our dairy farmers. And that's one of the charges of this Milk Commission, is to submit ideas to Congress and our delegation down there as well, Senator Leahy and Senator Sanders and Congressman Welch, to see if we can get a stable and fair system for our farmers so they can plan, they can grow, and they can stay in business.
So what is what are you guys working on the Milk Commission?
Well, tomorrow, one of the things we're going to be looking at is under the Farm Bill. The Farm Bill is a document that sets policy for 5 years after it's passed. Right now, they're taking testimony on it. It's supposed to be finished in 2018, which is next year. And we're looking at everything. We're looking at, tomorrow, we're going to be looking at the organic market. The organic market is also having some stress, just as our conventional farmers are having stress. There's an oversupply in the organic market right now, and they have a supply management system. A lot of their buyers, their handlers, they've either put a quota system on their producers, or they've cut the price to them as well. So we'll be looking at that tomorrow. One thing we're going to be looking at is, can we get more milk in our schools across the country. We're looking at encouraging, could we encourage more schools to have 1% milk, or something that probably most of you being farmers are used to. You're used to milk that's is not the skim milk, and over the last few years there's been a lot more skim milk, which sometimes the taste and the quality some of our students do not like. So if we can put more of that milk into our schools, that could put more out of the market, and that could possibly increase the price paid to our farmers if more schools purchased more milk. Just a couple of things we'll be looking at in the commission, at least tomorrow and in the future.
Is there any new RAPs that we should know about that are going to be coming into place?
Yes, the RAPs are the required agricultural practices. Those are the regulations that try to improve our water quality throughout Vermont. They're relatively new. And some folks have been under those regulations for a long time, some of our larger farmers. We have about 27 LFOs, which we call large farm operations, and those are farms that have more than 700 cows. So they've been under a lot of these regulations for a long time. Then we have medium farm operations. Those are for like 200 to 700. We're going to be looking at a permit. We have a meeting upcoming in November to talk about the medium farm operations. So that's coming online. And also, we're in the midst of the small farm operations also are facing regulation as well. And our inspectors and our field staff have started to visit some of our small farms to let them know that they possibly could be facing some more regulations under water quality under the RAPs.
With the large farm, medium farm, small farm programs, is there a certification process with each of those?
Yes, and the small farm is the new one that's just beginning to roll out. So we're starting to register folks with that, and it's more of a educational component now with the small farm operation. The medium farm and the large farm folks have been under this for a while, so they know that they have certain things they have to do with nutrient management plans, where they're spreading their manure, the buffers, cover crops, learning all those type of things. So they know about it, they've been under it, but I think the new wave of people is the small farm operations are going to have to be under more regulation, as was passed by the legislature, not last year, but the year before, and some of the rules are starting to take effect now.
And is there a cost associated with that certification process?
Right now, there is not a fee for the small farm operations. There are fees for the medium operation and the large farm operation. And right now, there's no fees involved with it. If these farms are forced to make improvements on their farm to meet the regulations, then there possibly could be costs associated with that. One thing we do have here at the agency is we have programs that can help farmers with financial assistance. We have grants for infrastructure improvements. Say you need a manure pit that needs to be built, we can help with that. We can help with barnyard improvements, and there's also a local part of this as well. So the farmer has to contribute money into a program, but we have federal and state assistance, and then the local share, being the producer, has to kick in as well.
What's your perspective on the immigrant labor in the milk?
Well, that's and that's it's an interesting topic. It's a very sort of a hot topic within the dairy world and also the general public. Right now, we rely on a number of workers that come from other countries to help at our dairy farms. There's been some surveys through UVM that maybe about 150 of our dairy operations across the state may use some sort of labor from another country. Right now, when the president was sworn in, and there was a lot of talk about changing policies around foreign workers. There was a tremendous amount of anxiety on some of our farms, both at our farmers and also the workers there. They were nervous that there could possibly be, roundups and checks to make sure they were here legally. Right now, that has not happened. We have not seen any sort of dramatic change in anything that's impacted our farmers. But having said that, I know there's a lot of anxiety both from our workers and our farmers that something could happen, and it's just one of those things that makes them extremely nervous.
How much money do you think will be spent through the crop insurance program this year with the poor crop year that we have had?
That's unclear. I know that the Farm Service Agency, FSA, handles a lot of that insurance program. And I know when we had some of those flash floods earlier this year, they were making sure that they were hoping that farmers would document any losses. As you recall, it was a very, very wet spring and first part of the summer, and only within the last 6 weeks we've had long stretches of dry, hot weather. So I think farmers will be, tallying that up, and there could be, depending on where you live, there could be losses with that. But they'll be tallying that with the Farm Services Agency to see if there are potential for people to qualify for crop losses.
Any thoughts on branding Vermont Milk so we can give our farmers a premium?
Yeah, that's been talked about. Could Vermont, because of its strong brand, we have a strong brand in a number of things, and our artisan cheeses, our beers, our wine, our chocolate makers, etc. Could we possibly have a Vermont brand? And that's been looked at over the years. Some of the challenges of that, would the consumer be willing to pay more in, say, the big markets like Boston and New York? And I think there's debate whether consumers would be able to pay additional more. And it's been tried before to, get a high brand and knowing that some of that money would come back to our farmers. One of the challenges we have is if that is the case, we have so many dairy farms. When you distribute it back over the big landscape, it becomes a small pot of money for our dairy farmers. If we had a few number of dairy farmers and we could ship a lot of milk to our bigger populations, they could get a better return on it. But that's been discussed, whether we could have a Vermont brand, and it's been tried in some capacities with limited success.
Will you be doing anything to improve the image of Vermont farms in the eyes of the consumer?
I think Vermont farmers have a strong relationship with the public. And from my experience being here since January, I think the public really wants our farmers to succeed, and they want them to succeed. They value what they've contributed over the years. They know they're working hard. They know they have enormous challenges. They know that weather can impact them. They're in a federal system it's difficult for them. But by and large, I think the public still responds to dairy farmers, and they want them to succeed, and they're willing to help them in any way they can, because they're enjoying a lot of what they give to them. They're enjoying open land, beautiful scenery. They get to see the animals. They also are enjoying an incredible product from them, a high quality product, the milk, the cheese, the ice cream. We are blessed to have great food produced right here in the state of Vermont. And I think the public responds to that, and I think they're thankful of that, and they're trying to do all they can to support them as much as they can.
So I guess one of our last questions here is recognizing the farm, I guess, labor or farm ownership will be changing hands significantly in years coming because of the age of the average age of our farmers in Vermont specifically is on the older side. Recognizing that we'll be changing those hands, do you have any suggestions for our young farmers, whether it be education or experience or ways of conducting themselves, anything along those lines? Do you have any suggestions or?
Yeah, and some of those, that's some of that's the transferring the farm to the younger generation, and those can be complex. They can be difficult because the person that may be retiring or not working full time anymore needs to have an income, but they also are passing along to the next generation, and they've got families and support they need as well. Some things that I would encourage people to do is there's a few groups within Vermont that can help with that. We have a program called Vermont Farm Viability, and that's run by the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board. And they work on transfers from generation to generation. They can help with business plans. There may be a program where they can get that bridge done. It could be the Housing Conservation Board or the Land Trust could help with an intergenerational program. So I would encourage them to do that as well. And I would just, if you have an interest in something that you're curious about, whether it's working on a dairy farm, maybe you want to become a cheesemaker, I would just continually look around. And if you want to go on to an education, we have some wonderful places within state where you can get a wonderful education with agriculture, be it VTC in Randolph. We have scholarship programs there, the 2+2 program, and we're sending about, I think, 5 young people to college there, tuition free. And at the end of those 2 years, they have the option of going to UVM as well with more scholarship money. So you've got VTC, you've got UVM. Also on the smaller scale, it's working with more a smaller scale of agriculture is Sterling College in Craftsbury. I would encourage folks, if they're looking to sort of, it could be more of the diversified agriculture sector up in Craftsbury. That's an opportunity for folks. And I would just encourage your education that you continue to have, getting immersed in anything you possibly can do. Join clubs, be involved in 4-H, visit other farms, go on field trips, visit the State House, see about policy, all that kind of stuff. Just immerse yourself in everything you possibly can. That's something that may pique your interest. That may be something that you really, really are interested in, and then you can take it to the next level.
Secretary, if I might ask a question.
Sure.
And this has already been answered. I apologize. Oh, I think there was some feedback on the phone. What do you perceive as one of the big obstacles right now in Vermont around agriculture?
I think it's one of the issues is just predictability. It's an industry that sometimes does not offer predictability, and that is a challenge because if you're in dairy, you sometimes don't know what you're going to get paid for until 30 days after you've had that milk delivered. So predictability is a challenge. Access to land is a challenge. If you don't have an ag background, you don't have a family that's in it, getting started up in that is a challenge because land can be expensive. There are programs to help young farmers though, with the Vermont Land Trust and the Housing Conservation Board helping with business plans. And but there are also tremendous opportunities. Our farmers are continuing to look at other things to supplement their income. They're diversifying more. Maple sugaring operations. I know probably a number of our dairy farmers, many probably on the line with us now, may have maple sugar operations. There may be someone that wants to have an on-farm operation with cheese making. That's an opportunity. If you do not want to sell your milk or your product in a commodity and you want to turn it into something value added, I think there's opportunities for folks there. And just keep searching out because look for mentors, look for people who've gone through it, have done it, reach out to them, talk with them. And I think Vermont is small enough, we can work together and find opportunities for folks that want to be in agriculture.
Is there just like one though that really intrigued you about being Secretary of Agriculture, or is it kind of the whole picture?
I think it's the whole picture. One thing about agriculture is there's a tremendous amount of variety. We've been talking about dairy, but there's other things that are involved. We do here at the agency. We're involved in the meat plants. We inspect meat plants, and we've watched more and more of those come online as more people want to know where their food is coming from and produced locally. So we've seen that. We're heavily involved in ag development. We have a program called the Working Lands Enterprise Program, where that's offering grants to startup companies that want to maybe buy that piece of equipment. They don't quite have the cash, but they may involve, if I get this piece of equipment, I can continue to maybe hire more people. It could be something as, recently we awarded someone who was making barrels for spirits, making oak barrels. So they want to put the spirits in that. And so there's lots of sort of value added programs. We try to help those young companies. We recently had a farmers market on the State House lawn. A lot of those emerging food companies need our support. We need to open up markets for them so they can take it from what they're doing in Vermont, and maybe they want to get the product to a bigger venue, maybe in Boston or New York or Connecticut, and we have programs for them. So there's a tremendous amount of variety here. We have 3 veterinarians on staff here. We always are very concerned about animal health and controlling diseases. I would encourage students to take a look at that. If they ever wanted to, reach out to a vet here and learn more about what they do. It's fascinating what they do. They're always working to make sure that we're not, we're controlling any disease that possibly could happen and controlling the health of our livestock, be it dairy or chickens or pigs, all that kind of stuff. So it's in agriculture, which attracts me to this job is there's something new and different every day, and it's much like farming. There's good days, there's bad days, there's really challenging things, but many times there's successes, and we have to embrace those successes when we have them, and we do have them from time to time.
I know that nationwide there's a crisis with people not wanting to go into the labor force and do the trades. They all want to go to college and, do those types of things. I'm wondering, do you feel that that's really been extended into the agriculture in Vermont? Do you see that crisis shaping up here at all?
Yeah, I think if you talk to our one of the big issues is labor. We're blessed in America. We have so many opportunities to do so many things. A lot of it now is centered around, technology. We have my phone is right here. I'm sure everyone, I don't know if you're allowed to have it in class, but everyone has a phone, and we're all attached to that, and that offers a lot of opportunities for folks. But I also see an opportunity from time to time. I think people sometimes want to slow down, and they have enormous gratification out of working the land and seeing either growing something and seeing it come to a product, or they've raised that calf and it's now a cow and it's giving milk, and they've seen that. So I see an opportunity for folks there as well. But like any industry that is out, whether it be working in construction or dairy, there are tremendous challenges to filling the workforce.
Sarah, do you or your students have any more questions for the Secretary?
I do. This is a different Sarah. I'm another Sarah speaking here, and I want to follow up on the student's question on doing anything to improve the image of Vermont farms in the eyes of the consumer. Here in Franklin County, farmers are feeling attacked by the media. They were feeling it from the Department of Agriculture under a former administration. They're feeling very supported by you, but feeling like something from the Department of Ag to help turn that image around. What can happen when people are attacking conventional farmers and blaming them for everything that's going wrong? There's been pieces in the paper, and there's no one that seems to be counteracting with giving real facts about what's going on with the agricultural industry and having bizarre information that no one in the media seems to understand farming anymore. So there's no one to counteract that. And I want to know, is there anything that's going to be coming forward from your department to help put the real facts out and how important ag is in our state? Because so many people don't realize it. They just see that as the enemy, and they are the total problem with all water quality. And that is really the battle that farmers are facing right now in Franklin County.
And I know where you're coming from on that. And I encourage all of our people not to stay above the fray and tell their story and talk about the contributions that they're making. You know, there's always going to be one or two cases, regardless if it's farming or in the media or somewhere, that there's going to be an example that people are going to pluck, and I think that is the image of the entire industry that's out there. But I always encourage people, you know, tell their story, share their messages, tell their community, go see their neighbors, talk with them. They have opportunities to tell their story through social media as well. You know, if a calf is born and have send that image over your Facebook page or your Twitter account or your Snapchat or your Instagram, tell that story and tell it why it's important. And if you're a farm and the veterinarian comes there and that veterinarian is relying on you being there for their income, tell that story as well. I think sometimes we don't want to get down in the trenches and start pointing fingers at various folks. I've always think the best way to move the dial forward is to tell your story. Keep the facts. The facts will always win in the end, and try to keep the emotion at a level that's, you know, just keep it level, and don't engage in, you know, finger pointing, and because I think the general public is willing to engage in a positive discussion, and they understand the importance of what farmers do in Franklin County and across the state.
What I'm asking is, can the Department of Agriculture put forth some more public service announcements or press releases with data and the importance, because you have the resources, staff, and the knowledge base that it can come from you, because it's not coming. A lot of farmers are doing the Facebook thing, but they don't have the data in the same way you do.
And we've helped with that recently. You know, VPR, Vermont Public Radio, reached out to us about some facts related to a story about dairy in Franklin County and across the state, and we did provide context and facts with them. And we can do more of that. We're trying to stay on top of that as much as possible. We were supplying them with real data about, you know, for example, how many loads of milk could have possibly been dumped over a year's time that could have possibly have antibiotics. And our milk people did provide facts to VPR, and give credit to VPR. They did go and issue those facts, and they reprinted them because we offered that. And we're trying to, you know, as much as possible, get as much information out there to the general public through our social media channels as well, about here are the programs we have, here are the practices that our farmers are doing that are improving water quality, whether it's you know, cover crops, etc. We recently had some pictures from Franklin County where in September the helicopter was putting winter rye down onto the corn. The corn still had not been harvested this week, but the cover crop was coming up through the ground, and that was improving soil quality. So I think messages like that folks are doing all they can. They're spending a lot of money, a lot of their hard-earned money on doing that. And I think most farmers, they would never do anything to hurt their land or their animals. And I think we could just continuously have to tell a message and stay positive about those and give information. And if you give solid information to the public it's accurate, then they'll stay with you.
And that's what I'm hoping is you'll be the leaders on that, and everybody here will be supporting people to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the suggestion. I appreciate it.
All right. Anybody else over there at Cold Hollow like to ask the Secretary some questions while we still have them?
No, we want to say thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
And if you guys want to come down to Montpelier sometime and see the agency, we'd more than willing to host you. And if you wanted to visit the State House, we could also introduce you to the committees over there that deal a lot what you're learning about, which is the Senate Ag and the House Ag and Forestry, and also some of the water quality committees as well. So if you ever want to come down for a field trip, you can work in the winter or any time of year. We're more than happy to host you.
Oh, great. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you to Cold Hollow, and Secretary, thank you for taking the time out of your day to do this. We really appreciate it. Hopefully we can do something similar in the not-too-distant future with you again.
Happy to do it. It was great. Happy to do it any time.
All right. Thank you all very much, and have a wonderful day.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.